All right, hello, and welcome back to Tales of Faith, a podcast on the narrative lectionary. I'm Louise Ocher. My pronouns are she, her.
And I'm AJ Ocher, and my pronouns are he, him. This is episode 403 for the 15th Sunday after Pentecost on September 21st, 2025, though we are recording on September 6th. So if something major has happened between then and now, we obviously won't be able to comment on
it. Today we're talking about Genesis 27, 1-4, 15-23, 28, 10-17. And we'll be using the New Revised Standard Version, Updated Edition, unless otherwise noted. So, I guess we'll get started with context is key.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about some of the text in between. So this is one of those, sometimes narrative lectionary does this, where it wants to tell this wider story, but we're not going to read everything in between. And so it just sort of jumps around. This is definitely one of those, so we'll talk about it a little bit. But overall context, so last time we heard about the binding of Isaac, so now we have jumped a few generations from there. Isaac marries Rebecca. Yeah, I believe it's Rebecca. I always get Rebecca and Rachel mixed up. Anyways, pretty sure it's Rebecca. And they have some children. We'll see her in a little bit. They have had twins. It's Jacob and Esau. Esau is born first, and then Jacob a little bit after. Esau, as we will hear, is kind of the prototypical masculine, sort of out in the woods. He is a hunter. He's big and burly. He's hairy, all that sort of stuff. He's a jock. He's Thor. He's, like that sort of thing. He's an alpha, one might say. And then Jacob, whose name means heel grabber because he's holding on to Esau's heel, or supplanter, which will come up today, is much more sort of on the other end of masculinity. He likes to hang out in tents. He would be, I guess, a beta. He might be a sigma. I don't know. Those are all the ones that I know.
I feel like you're just saying things to say them.
Yeah, right. But just a friendly reminder that even within Scripture, the Hebrew Scriptures, masculinity is a pretty... There's a wide spectrum over what is expected. So part of the challenge and sort of the tension of all of this, and we'll definitely get into it, is that there's this blessing given to Abraham, by God. It is then passed on, and the text definitely connects that to Isaac specifically, though there's definitely a blessing on Ishmael. But it's kind of almost off camera as far as Abraham is concerned. But there's this sort of idea that God is giving this blessing, and that seems to be sort of expansive. And these humans are treating it as very precious. And that's definitely something we're going to get to as well. So now we're a few generations on. The boys have grown up and they are adults, and we see some tension between them. At this point, Jacob has tricked Esau into giving up his birthright by giving up stew. This is there's this whole connection to Edom, red, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Oh, the other comp, sorry, for Jacob is like he's Loki, right? It's this is a sort of trope that we see throughout a lot of these things, but it's like Thor, Loki, Jacob, Esau, sort of big, burly, masculine sort of powerhouse, and then the one who really doesn't occupy that role, but uses sort of trickery, uses a little bit more underhand, uses the power that is available to him to accomplish his goals. So that's what we will see.
All right. Ready for the text?
Yep.
All right, so section 1, Genesis 27, 1 to 4, a secret blessing. When Isaac was old and his eyes were dim so that he could no longer see, he called his elder son Esau and said to him, "My son." And he answered, "Here I am." And he said, "See, I am old. I do not know the day of my death. Now then, take your weapons, your quiver and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt game for me. Then prepare for me savory food, such as I like, and bring it to me to eat, so that I may bless you before I die."
All right. So the setup, this is one of those, it's kind of a greatest hits, right? This is one we're pretty familiar with. The setup is wanting to give this blessing to Esau, right? Isaac wants to give this blessing to Esau. Again, back to this idea that his grandfather was blessed, his father was blessed, so now he's going to send this blessing on. The sort of part of it is this cultural assumption that this is the oldest son, so he should get the blessing. In addition, we've also had several notes that that Esau is Isaac's favorite. Right. He knows how to connect with him, whatever. And so he wants to bless him. Now, when this official blessing would happen culturally, there would be a big feast. And this would be a grand thing. Everyone is invited. All the sort of the distant relations are invited as well. And there's this official blessing on usually that firstborn. However, that's not the setup here, right? This is not a big blessing or a big feast where everyone is invited.
Now, is that because Jacob has already stolen the birthright, and so, or we don't really know why it's set up this way?
Could be, yeah. And this is one of those things that it's I think intentionally vague. We're to see, okay, there's, and again, when we tell this in sort of Sunday school, right, the duplicity is kind of very much on the side of Rebecca and Jacob, right? But it actually starts here.
Right.
Isaac is saying, we're going to have a feast, but it's going to be a secret.
It's going to be just you and me.
Just you and me. We're just going to have a feast by ourselves. We're going to do this blessing thing, which then causes us to think, well, maybe is there something else going on? So, so Jacob has taken the birthright, which means that as far as they're concerned, right, maybe he should get this thing. But it also very much displayed that Esau is not a planner. He is not a tactical guy, right? He is worried about, I am hungry right now, so give me this thing, and I don't care what happens in the future. Which, not great prospects for him being sort of the patriarch now. Right.
Well, and especially when the blessing that God has given is future focused.
Yeah.
But to Abraham only has one kid. Now his descendants are going to be as numerous as the stars. But so it is a very future focused blessing.
Yeah.
And Esau just doesn't.
Right. So what may be going on here is that Isaac, maybe or maybe not, Esau is sort of like clued into this, but perhaps Isaac recognizes that I want to give my blessing to Esau, but other people in my household may
Might
not
not.
be right excited
Might not
about
be the
that
best.
prospect. And so that may be what's going on. And especially given where the story goes as well, that may be something that's an element of this, that it's sort of like you have to dig a little bit deeper under the surface, but just recognizing, oh, there's some sort of power plays going on here.
Right.
There's some probably some patriarchal sort of assumptions that are part of this. There's also this sort of cultural sort of, oh, well, obviously it goes to the firstborn. It doesn't matter if the firstborn was born 3 minutes
Right.
before the secondborn.
Still the firstborn.
Yeah. So there's a lot of these sort of things that are going on there.
Yeah.
Well,
and I think the comment that you made earlier about the shrinking of God's gift by humans is so interesting because, yeah, there so many problems could be solved if we would just learn to share.
yeah.
We would just remember what we said in kindergarten: sharing is caring, or splitting,
Yeah.
or I don't know, just a little compromise. It's a little one.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that at no point does God say this will only pass to one person.
Right.
But that's how people are treating it.
Right. Well, and that's all. I mean, I think that is
Yeah.
such human nature, is that every time we get something good, our nature is to hoard it.
Yeah.
Is to keep it, because if I share it with you, then I'm gonna have less.
There's going to be
and
less.
then if you share with that person, there's gonna be less. And so if we all end up sharing this thing, then we're all gonna have less, instead of saying, well, yes, but we'll all have some. And also the whole favoritism thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Like
favoritism, nepotism. Yeah.
Yeah. Just a reminder that is not that is not God given. Like
Right.
that just because the firstborn has, like, that historically we give things to the firstborn, that was never God's design.
Right.
And this inheritance issue was never God's design.
Yeah.
Um,
In fact, God, like, throughout, and this is a theme very much throughout Genesis, God specifically going against that firstborn sort of assumption.
Yeah.
The way that this story is set up also has a really interesting, I think, maybe commentary on what does power look like? What does, like, because these two are presented as these archetypes of sort of like hunter and gatherer, or violence and
trickery.
trickery, but also like there's a certain amount that that Jacob is yes, trickery, but also just pastoral, just sort of like he's with the women in the tents. It's masculine, feminine, right, to a certain extent. But just this sort of contrast, and think about how much throughout definitely ancient history, and arguably the rest of also other history, Western history, so much of it is like, oh, the one who is the most violent, the one who is willing to use power against others, that's the one we should give more power and authority to. And the one who's unwilling to wield that power in that way, maybe not. So there's maybe some commentary there as well.
Right. Yeah, that flipping what real power is on its head, and reminding us that those who take power are often not the ones that should be wielding power.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just a reminder to parents that we should not have favorites.
Yep.
I mean, I only have one, so I know it's easy for me. But and then kids are all different, but so many times in biblical time we have siblings and the parents each pick a favorite, and that never goes well.
Yeah.
It never goes well for anyone.
No, it does not. Speaking of not going well, let's go to interstitial number 1, Genesis 27, 5-14. Plans within plans. Again, this is not in the sort of official text, but Rebekah now listened when Isaac spoke to his son Esau. So when Esau went to the field to hunt game for his father, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, I've heard your father say to your brother Esau, bring me game and prepare for me savory food to eat, that I may bless you before the Lord before I die. Now, therefore, my son, obey my word as I command you. Go to the flock and get for me 2 choice kids, so that I may prepare from them savory food for your father, such as he likes. And you shall take it to your father to eat, so that he may bless you before he dies. But Jacob said to his mother Rebekah, look, my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I am a man of smooth skin. Perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem to be mocking him and bring a curse on myself and not a blessing. His mother said to him, let your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my word and go get them for me. So he went and got them and brought them to his mother, and his mother prepared savory food, such as the father loved. Then Rebekah took the best garments of her elder son Esau, which were with her in the house, and put them on her younger son Jacob. And she put the skins of the kids on his hands and on the smooth part of his neck. Then she handed the savory food and the bread that she had prepared to her son Jacob. All right.
So we're hatching a plan.
Yeah. So we've got this plan, and it's this. Yeah, it's this tension between sort of power, sort of naked power, violence, and this more. It could be trickery, it could be also cunning, right? Part of it is these are characters who are not given power, right? But the power that they have is their wiles and their sort of, yes, trickery, but also their sort of ability to deal with the situation in a way that is advantageous to them, which is, again, as especially we think about ancient literature, this is a prized quality. We have it here with Jacob. We have it with, I mean, again, Loki is a good example. He's not really a bad guy. He's a sort of like, he's a trickster. He is a foe sometimes, but he's not quite
There's
within
some pretty serious stories about Loki in Norse mythology.
That's
it's not a great guy.
Yeah. Okay, maybe Anansi is maybe a better, or Brer Rabbit is almost the same sort of thing, where they like the big and dumb sort of like enemies.
There usually seems to be a reason for why they're doing what they're
doing. Yeah. But they're using this power that they have, the power to sort of outthink and outwit and that sort of thing. That's part of what I think I'm saying.
So what's interesting is I think you are kind of uplifting Jacob and Rebekah, which is just interesting. I think in this story, everybody's wrong.
Yeah.
I think literally everyone's wrong.
Right. It's not.
If someone had just said, hey, could we just have a quick convo about what's going on here?
Family meeting.
I don't think you should be picking this son above this son.
Right.
Could we talk about that? Dad, I feel like you don't love me as much as you love me. Well, I feel like mom does. Like if we had all just had a little chat. But in the end, really, everyone is in the wrong. Because even if we don't like the fact that Jacob was picking somebody, or that Isaac was picking Esau to give a blessing to, Jacob still stole something from Esau. So now Esau is left with nothing. And so Jacob is trying to give Esau something.
Mhm.
So, and while I don't think that that is necessarily right, neither is what Jacob did. So I think we need to be careful of how we're looking at, I think we are supposed to see that each one of these characters has flaws, and we need to be careful of all of the ways that they choose to carry out the thing that they're trying to do, the way that they're trying to get to their ultimate goal, their motivation. Because in the end, if everyone's goal had been to choose the best leader, or carry on the family name in the best way possible, or be a united, loving family, we would have had a very different story. But everyone chose to be selfish. Jacob chose to steal from Esau. Rebecca chooses to, make this. Then Jacob steals from Esau. Esau gets pretty ticked off. Then Israel decides to only bless Esau, and then Isaac, they're having a while with this stuff. Isaac decides to only bless Esau, and then Rebecca decides to try and steal that for Jacob. They're all flawed. They're all wrong.
Yeah.
And yes, Jacob and Rebecca don't have as much power in this situation, and I think that's a valid point. I see what you're saying there. But it's still, I still think that I still think their actions bear looking at.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Because they still do not have the desired outcome. It's, again, if we had approached the problem with communication and love and respect for each other, instead of what can I get for me, because that's the issue. Each one of these people is out for themselves. They choose to do it in different ways, but they're all out for themselves and what they think is best. So that's just.
And I guess that sort of brings in this sort of back to this scarcity mindset of God's blessing, that then there's competition and they're trying to outdo each other with the gifts that they have.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I just, again, I think that as with most scripture, there's multifaceted lessons that we are to learn.
Yeah.
But it's always bothered me that Jacob just steals from Esau. And we're just supposed to be like, okay, well, Esau was big and burly. It's not totally his fault. Like, he's the firstborn. That's not his, that also is not his fault.
Right. Yeah.
Now, I don't know I don't remember as much of the history and the backstory and all that. Like, was Esau just a big jerk? Like, was Esau just a big bully? And maybe he was. But, I think that we're all in the wrong here. If this were a Reddit post,
we're all the assholes.
It would be everyone sucks here,
Yeah. Well, yeah. And let's
at least at this point.
Yeah. We'll put a pin in that until
we'll get further into it. But at this point, it's just
the end. Yeah. And I'll talk about kind of where the story goes after that. But yeah.
Well, and I
nobody's exactly in the right.
Yeah. Yes, and where the story goes, again, like, God can bring good things out of the stupid, terrible, selfish things that we do. So, I think that everyone in this story is selfish in general.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's great.
Section 2, Genesis 27:15-17, Esau in disguise. Then Rebekah took the best garments of her elder son Esau, which were with her in the house, and put them on her younger son Jacob. And she put the skins of the kids on his head. Did you just read that part?
Yeah, I you did. Okay. Copied it.
Moving on. So,
well,
you want to finish that part?
Yeah. Do you have anything to say about that?
No, I mean, that's the setup.
Okay.
That's just the setup. Section 3, Genesis 27:18-23. If it smells like a duck and feels like a duck. So he went into his father and said, "My father," he said. And he said, "Here I am. Who are you, my son?" Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn." And probably here he was like impersonating, "I am Esau, your
Yeah.
firstborn. I have done as you have told me. Now sit up and eat of my game so that you may bless me." But Isaac said to his son, "How is it that you have found it so quickly, my son?" He answered, "Because the Lord your God granted me success." Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Come near, that I may feel you, my son, to know whether you are really my son Esau or not." So Jacob went up to his father Isaac, who felt him and said, "The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau." And he did not recognize him because his hands were hairy like his brother Esau's, so he blessed him. So, yeah, again,
There
maybe
you go.
we'd had a few more conversations here. We would have figured out what was happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, part of it is also to recognize that this is also the way this story is being told is very sort of, we brought up sort of Norse mythology. It's a
Yeah.
mythological, like, yeah, if anybody was really paying attention.
I mean, it's very Little
Yeah.
Red Riding Hood. My,
Yeah,
what big
exactly.
ears you have, Rex.
Exactly.
My, what big teeth you have. Like,
Right.
Jacob is sort of, or Israel's Isaac is sort of putting it together, but not really.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's an interesting.
It's like something's not quite right. Well,
oh well, yeah, exactly. Very much.
moving on.
Well, you sound like Jacob, but you're hairy, so let's just go forward.
Let's get this blessing thing done before Rebecca finds out.
And that's and I think that's part of that.
Yeah.
Is we're trying to get this done. And what's really funny is it'll take Isaac quite a while to die after this. So he's not nearly as close to death as he thought he was. So that's kind of funny too. But I want this to happen quickly, and yet wait, hold on. You made a whole feast. You went and you caught something so quickly, and so it's this interesting tension of, well, I didn't think it was going to happen this fast, but
yeah. Well, I don't know. There is something there that is interesting to me that he says, "Go out and kill game to Esau." And so Esau goes and does the thing that his dad has asked him to do. And Rebecca's like, just grab 2 sheep. Like I can make 2 sheep taste like whatever. And that she is willing to take something from the household to get what she wants.
Yeah.
I just and Esau's hunting. Because she understands she's got to get it done quick as well. But it's just an interesting, like, what, that'll be fine. I'll fix that. He likes lamb stew or whatever. But again, like, she is taking something to get what she wants without really regard for what that means for the rest of the household.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, again, sort of playing into their strengths of Esau's the one to go out and get game.
Yeah.
Jacob is the one who gets something that's local.
And it also, I mean, purely on I'm trying to be secretive.
Right.
If Esau just walks out and grabs a lamb, then everyone's like, wait, what are you doing with that?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
whereas no one's going to question Rebecca, like, yeah. Yeah, it's for the household. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Probably goats. I think kids. Goats. But
yeah, true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it is very Little Red Riding Hood.
The Lord your God granted me success, like using. I think it's interesting that this deception is veiled in religious talk, sort of thing. We could probably make something of the Lord your God, but that's
right. So that's always interesting to me that it is often that way.
Yeah.
That when it is the child, they are often referring to the parents' God, not their God.
Yeah. And I think in this case, so there are certainly times where, say, in the book of Daniel or whatever, when the king says the Lord your God, it's like, oh yeah,
Right.
your God. In this case, I think it has more to do with this sort of, because Isaac is the patriarch, and so this is the God, it's your God who we will also worship, but it's
Right.
the importance that it's your God is, I think it's less sort of differentiating. Well, it's not my God, but it's your God sort
Yeah.
of thing.
No, what I
But-
think is just interesting is this lack of claiming God for oneself until they are the patriarch themselves.
Yeah. Which is going to be very important to put a pin in for next week, because God defines themselves as the God of
Right.
your ancestors.
Yeah.
Which, again, for an ancient mindset, like, the older something is, the more
Right.
important it is.
Right. The
So
more
there's,
valuable. Right.
yeah.
Right.
So
It's
there's
just
some
an
of that, but it
interesting-
is really interesting. Yeah.
You know, I when I work with the kids, or, you know, even with Asher, I'm very like, this has to be yours.
Mhm. Yeah.
I can have all the faith in the world. It does not mean anything to you if you do not also.
Yeah.
If God is not your God, then none of what we're doing here
Right.
is, it's not personal. It's not important to you until you claim it. So I just think that's an interesting thing.
Yeah. All right. So interstitial 2 is a long one. This is just what happens in between. So I'm just going to yada yada it a little bit. But there's Isaac blesses Jacob, who he thinks is Esau. It's, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth and plenty of grain and wine. Let people serve you and nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be everyone who blesses you. And so then he finishes this blessing, and Jacob leaves. And about that time, Esau shows up with his feast, and Isaac realizes, I have done a terrible thing. And he says, and this back to this sort of scarcity thing, he says, you know, wait, who are you? And he says, it's Esau. You just sent me out to get a feast, and I've brought it in for you. He's like, well, who was the other guy? And he's like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And Isaac says, you know, I've already given the blessing. I've given it up already. It must have been Jacob. And Esau sort of bows down and he says, like, is there anything left for me at all? And he says, no, there's nothing left. I gave all of the blessing to what I thought was you, but it was in fact your brother. And Esau says, well, is there anything else that you can give me? And his father Isaac answered him, and this is verse 39, see, away from the fatness of the earth shall your home be, and away from the dew of heaven on high. But by the sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. But when you break loose, you shall break his yoke from your neck. And at that point, Esau hates Jacob. He makes plans to kill him. He's going to wait until his father dies before he's actually going to kill his own brother. But he's putting together plans. He's making plans to do this. Rebecca again hears this, and she goes, "Oh, we need to get you out of here." And then we've got this, like, there's a B plot where Esau has married 2 Canaanite women. And Rebecca hates it. She cannot stand that he has married some of the local girls. She is from Ur of the Chaldeans, where Abraham and Sarah came from. And so the plan is they're going to, she has Jacob go to Isaac and ask for permission to go back to Ur in order to get a wife,
Yeah.
a good cousin wife, like everybody should have. This is a major thing. Yeah, so he goes and asks, and Isaac says, "Sure, you can go on back." In that, there's a little bit of a tension of the assumption is this blessing of Abraham is geographically bound, right? Because it's to this particular land. So the fact that Jacob is leaving this land outside of the sort of territory of the Lord is a little bit harrowing and sort of a problem there. But he lets him go. He goes off. Esau, meanwhile, sort of finishing up that B plot, thinks, oh, they don't like it that I married a Canaanite woman. And so he marries another Canaanite woman.
I mean, you know,
So
it's not the brightest
he
bulb.
tried, right? It might have been, no, it wasn't a Canaanite.
It's a Hittite.
It's a Hittite woman. Okay.
Yeah.
So the Hittites were not as Canaanite as the Canaanites.
Yeah. He's married to a Hittite.
Yeah.
Then he marries a Canaanite.
Yeah. So the Hittites, I believe they are like, gosh, I can't remember the whole family tree, but they're like cousins of.
Oh.
I believe the Hittites are other descendants of Abraham, or something like that. I don't know. So it's not quite as distant from them genetically, but it's not great, anyways. So, so there's that. That brings us to the next section. So, any thoughts about that's all of that we went over?
Oh, wait. But so Esau went to Ishmael and took a daughter of Abraham's son Ishmael.
Oh,
and
okay.
sister of.
So it's an Ishmaelite.
Yeah,
Okay.
to his wife, in addition to the wives he had. So, yeah, he's not making great choices.
So yeah.
Just trying.
And already we're having this sort of, you're seeing a widening of the Isaacites and the Ishmaelites. That there's, it's not great.
Section 4, Genesis 28:10-16, Jacob's dream. Jacob left Beersheba, and went towards Haran. He came to a certain place and stayed there for the night, because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones of the place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place. And he dreamed that there was a stairway, or ramp, set up on earth, the top of it reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And the Lord stood beside him, or stood above it, and said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham your father, and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie I will give to you and to your offspring, and your offspring shall be like the dust of the earth. And you shall spread abroad to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south, and all the families of the earth shall be blessed, or shall bless themselves, in you and in your offspring. Know that I am with you and will keep you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land. For I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised. Then Jacob woke up from his sleep and said, Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. And he was afraid and said, How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven.
All right. So this is, other than Stairway to Heaven, right? This is one of those sort of like, yeah, okay, that was a weird thing that happened stories.
Right.
And as I've sort of sat with especially the Jacob cycle, recognizing how actually really important this story is, because of lots of things. One of them is that sort of the assumption of geographical boundaries
Mhm.
of Adonai's sort of power, right? Adonai says, I will give you this land. The Lord says, I will give you this land to your offspring. And that is a huge sort of linchpin in the Abraham cycle, right?
Mhm.
So immediately Abraham leaves and goes to Egypt, and it doesn't go well, but then he comes back with great riches. He wanders around. There's a bunch of tensions. He makes sort of relationships. What is it called? Like treaties, I guess, with Elimelech. And so then he's got a little bit of a toehold. After Sarah dies, he buys a plot of land. So now he actually owns land in this land. That's going to sort of expand from there. But there's a huge tension. Do not leave this land. So when Isaac is going to get a wife, Abraham says to his slave, he says, I need a wife for my son. Sarah says, oh, you should get a good cousin wife from Ur. But Abraham sends the slave to go find a wife because he cannot dare sort of take the chance
Right, that leaving could
that
cause
Isaac
yeah.
leaves and then Abraham dies. And now this land, this little bit of a toehold that they had, they're going to lose it. So he says, no, you got to stay there. We'll get a wife for you. We'll bring her in. So there's that. Jacob is leaving this land, actively leaving the land of Adonai. So that's one thing. There's also, we've seen all of this drama unfold. And as we just said, right, Jacob tricks his father into getting a blessing. He tricks his brother into getting a birthright. He tricks his father into getting a blessing, which is all fine and good. But what about this actual blessing of God?
Right.
Where's that going to go? Is that actually in danger as well? And I think that's part of what this story is he sees God themselves on the throne saying, no, I bless you. It's almost as if the blessing of Isaac was inconsequential. This blessing that is very similar, the blessing that that Isaac gives is way off from the blessing of Abraham.
Right.
Other than sort of referencing that this is the land of God and sort of
Well,
the I'll bless those who bless you will be blessed and those who curse you will be cursed.
it seems like Isaac's blessing was almost a way to sort of try and get the birthright back for Esau by placing him above the brothers.
Yeah, well, yeah, and
that was like, well, if I give him a blessing that places him above the brothers, then the thing that he gave away,
yeah, that's a good point.
which was the power, then maybe this is a way
to
to
restore some balance.
Yeah, to get it back a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it really doesn't have anything to do with, really anything to do with God's blessing.
But this blessing that God pronounces over Jacob is very similar to the one pronounced over Abraham.
Yeah.
Which I think brings up the theme that we were talking about just for this whole year, really, is that Jacob's a punk, right? He tricks people. Yes, like there's some interesting sort of tension there. But again, he's not the good guy in the story. And yet this blessing is granted to him anyways. Right. Even though he's leaving the land, it's still given to him. So there's a lot of that as well.
Yeah, I think it's It's interesting because actually God's blessing has not yet, well, I guess it put to Isaac, but no, God's blessing has not passed down to the firstborn yet.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Right.
Ishmael was the firstborn and Esau was the firstborn. And yet we somehow got into this idea that that's the way that it should be.
Because that's the cultural thing. You
Right.
just give it to the firstborn. That's what would happen.
Right.
And like we were saying before, this is this theme that is hit over the head over and over and over from Genesis, throughout Genesis. That while the humans want to do the firstborn, God is constantly blessing
Yeah.
the lastborn or whoever God chooses.
Yeah. And I think perhaps that's more the point than Jacob is the good guy here. Because I don't see Jacob, and I'm the younger kid here. Like in my family, I'm the youngest. So you'd think I'd be rooting for the youngest, but I really just don't. I've never felt that Jacob's early life painted him in any kind of good light.
His later life doesn't
It
do
doesn't
better.
really get much better. Yeah, actually, he makes a lot of, and I guess that is that story of redemption, that story, that reminder that even in our brokenness, God uses us and God chooses who he chooses. And we don't always understand why, because God is looking at the greater picture. And eventually we're going to get from Jacob to David, who also makes stupid decisions, from Jacob to Joseph,
Jacob to Joseph is much better.
It's like Jacob to Joseph, So, God is looking at the bigger picture. God is outside of time. He knows where all of these things lead. And so he makes the choices that he makes, or God makes the choices that God makes based on what is ultimately going to be the best for humanity. But I don't think that means that we should glorify the actions of these people. Because again, what has now happened is the family is broken. Because two parents could not just love their children equally, because one father could not split the inheritance or split the blessing. This family is now broken and everyone is divided. And one brother is fleeing and one brother wants to kill the other. So it is that, I think it is that reminder that greed and selfishness are ultimately the things that destroy. And yes, God can bring about blessing from destruction, but that is not the plan.
And I think part of it is almost like God is saying, I will bless you if you just let me.
Right.
Get out of the way. Stop trying to claim it for yourself. Stop trying to, and we'll get to that in a little bit, what Jacob actually does with this. But like, stop messing it up.
Yeah.
That God, despite all of the things that Jacob has done, grants this blessing and says, I'm going to be with you no matter what.
Yeah.
And that sort of commitment is another, this is covenant. It's not sort of as strongly covenantal, but it is very much God saying, I am going to be with you, whatever happens, come what may. Right. And I think that's instructive as well. The sort of like,
do we ever get more on Esau?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I'm
I was going to say the other side of that is God does not also abandon Esau.
No, God does not, and that's
just like God does not abandon Ishmael.
Yeah.
And I think what really bothers me is that often this section is perverted into that, see, God wants you to take what is yours. God wants you to seize power when it is not given, because
Right.
you're the one God's chosen.
Get what's
Um,
yours.
Yes. And I think that's what ultimately really bothers me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And I do think Ishmael gets, or Isaac, no, Ishmael gets their, listen to everybody's name. I do think Esau gets the raw end of the deal here, you know? And I think that's what really gets me, is that I have definitely seen this passage used to justify the patriarchy, to justify taking power, to justify seizing things that are not ours because God has given it to us.
Yeah.
You know, um, the manifest destiny and colonization and a lot of that. This is where some of this is rooted in. And I think that, which is why I push back a little bit against that idea that Rebecca and Jacob are not also at fault and not also the bad guys here. Even though, again, God does choose to bless Jacob. But I think it's in spite of, not because of. And we have learned the lesson that it's because of.
Yeah.
As with many things, I think that we need to reassess so much of what we've been told about the Old Testament God. Because it has been so perverted to give us power in the way that we want it.
Yeah.
Rather than a deep look at how flawed humanity is, and that even in those flaws, God loves us, God blesses us, and God takes care of us and goes with us wherever we are, even when we're making those bad decisions, even when we've hurt somebody else. Because as a reminder, I always tell my children, God loves everyone. That means that God loves those people that have hurt you.
Yeah.
And that is a real hard pill to swallow sometimes. But we are all God's children, and God loves each of us. He's not always happy with us, and we don't always make the right choices. But God does love each of us. And will be there and take care of us when we need it and when we are open to it. So that's kind of, I got distracted. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, you were fine. I
was writing a note.
I got distracted. Yeah. So I think that's kind of where, I mean, I know we're going to the that'll preach section, but that's what has always, I think, bothered me about these passages.
Yeah.
And much of the Old Testament is this overemphasis on God giving us power over other people. And that's the lesson we're supposed to be learning, that we're supposed to be focusing on.
Yeah.
And I am realizing more and more that that's where a lot of my assumptions come from, and that's one of those things that I need to deconstruct.
Yeah.
That is not what God wants from us. Because that is selfish ambition. So, yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. No, that's good. I think part of going back to this sort of like recognizing the maybe more positive qualities of owning the power that you actually have,
right,
type thing. I think part of it is, and recognizing that, yes, there's a great deal of the Hebrew scriptures that are about sort of claiming and overcoming enemies and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of that, coming to recognize that some of that is also just revenge porn. It's like, this is written by and for and to people who are on the underside.
Yeah,
this is the teeny tiny little nation that thinks maybe higher of themselves. But like this teeny tiny nation that never really has power.
Right.
And so their stories are full of the God who says, yeah, you can have this land, take it over, right? And we can understand the desire for that, the, as this sort of like, okay, I get it, I understand. And then we, as the dominant culture,
Right. That's what I'm saying. We're learning the wrong lesson
who
from
read
it.
those same things instead of saying, well, I don't have the same power that they do, but I do have this power and I will use it to survive, right? That's maybe more the intention. And what we have taken from it is use whatever tools you have at your disposal to make sure you get your own. And like it's just a very different story when you hear it from the top.
Yeah.
For those with privilege and power.
Yeah. And I think that,
which is where we sit.
Right, is where we sit, but I also think that often we are taking the wrong lesson.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And
that
that's what I'm
lesson is God's love, protection, compassion, and forgiveness and grace to this small nation that doesn't have it.
Yeah.
That does not have anything. That God is saying, no, you don't, it doesn't matter that you don't have anything because I am going to give it to you.
Yeah.
I am going to take care of you. Like we just read the Deuteronomy, the years of, the year of Jubilee and forgiving of debts. And God says, hey, you forgive these debts. Don't worry about it because I got you.
It'll be enough.
I'm going to take care of you. But we have not learned that lesson.
Yep.
That's not the lesson that we're walking away from. And I'm seeing more and more that that's the lesson we're supposed to be learning.
Absolutely.
But I do understand and I respect that from the perspective of enslaved people and people without power, that message of claiming empowerment is important.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think that even then, I think the lesson is still that God is giving you something you shouldn't be taking away from somebody else.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
That's the deconstructive work that I'm doing. Nice. So I don't negate what you're saying about that is also an important point for people who do not have power to see God choosing someone who does not have power, and that blessing and that connection that person can make, that is important. But I still think that the message they're supposed to walk away from is not to. So you get to go out now. You get to go out
just
and be the bully.
Do whatever you can. Yeah, exactly.
Right now you get to hit them back. It's now I'm going to take care of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which is probably where I will go with the kids. So that's
that's a good one. Well, okay. So first, let me do the rest of the story because I think it's important to hear that now and see where this fits, because this is relatively early on in the sort of Jacob cycle.
Right.
So immediately after this, first Jacob says to God, there's this pronouncement that this is the house of God. This is Bethel. Truly God is in this place and I did not recognize it. And so he makes a solemn vow. And the solemn vow is, if you go with me where I go,
right,
and if you bless me, and if you are with me wherever I go, and if you bring me back to this place, then you will be my God, right? So so God has this unconditional blessing of like, this, I have got you no matter what. And Jacob's response is, okay, so
cool, but
yeah, exactly. I'm not going to trust you. I'm not even going to trust, but after verification, then I'll trust, right?
Yeah. Trust but verify.
Yeah. So he goes to his brother-in-law, uncle.
Yeah, I think it's
Laban.
Yeah.
And very much meets his match in
Right.
sort of trickster, and so they try to out trick each other. He sees Rebecca and wants to marry her, and so Laban says,
I think it's Rachel.
"Is it Rachel?
Wasn't Rebecca
Oh my
his mom?
gosh. I told you I get them mixed up.
I don't sound very.
Rebecca is his mom, so
Yeah, so it's
Rachel.
Rachel.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. Rachel, who, so he loves Rachel. So Laban says, okay, you can be an indentured servant for 7 years.
Right.
Works for 7 years. It seems like a night to him or something like that. They get to the wedding night, and he, what's the word? Consummates. They consummate the marriage. And when the sun comes up, it was Leah, her older sister. And this whole like older younger thing is played out again, right? And so then he signs up for another 7 years to marry Rachel. There's this devastatingly beautiful and just tragic story of the names of the children. That is gorgeous. But he ends up eventually with 4 wives, and eventually it will be 12 sons and 1 daughter. Laban and Jacob try to just out trick each other constantly, always renegotiating all these sorts of things. Finally, Jacob has had enough of it, and he takes off. There's this whole trickiness thing of Laban follows them and says, you stole my household gods. It was Rebecca who did it, and she tricks her father into taking the household gods. And anyways, they leave on not very good terms, but at least not wanting to kill each other kind of terms. So he comes back to, Jacob comes back to Canaan, and there's a report that Esau is there waiting for him with 300 men.
Jacob's a little worried.
Yeah, Jacob is very worried. But to his credit, right, he doesn't then say, never mind, this was a bad idea. I'm going to go back to Laban. I'm going to go somewhere else. He says, no, I'm going to go and go back. Then in the middle of the night, some dude shows up and he wrestles with him and will not let him go unless he is blessed. And this one, who scripture never directly says who it is, says, okay, I'm going to bless you. I'm going to give you a new name. Your name is now going to be Israel, one who wrestles with humanity and with God, right? In the morning, Jacob, Israel, splits up by party, the children and all of the stuff, and sends the first group on ahead with the instruction, very sort of Puss in Boots style. They're going to go to Esau, and Esau says, "Who are all these people? Why are you all here?" They're to say, "We are gifts for my lord Esau from your brother Jacob," right? Butter him up. He also is sort of splitting everything. It's explicit that if Esau attacks the first group with his least favorite wife, then he and his favorite wife, they can go. Yeah. Again, not great.
Jacob, not a good guy.
Yeah. Eventually Jacob gets to Esau, and he bows down before him and says, I was a jerk, right? I was bad to you. I should not have done all those things. All of these things are presents for you because God has blessed me in the land where I have gone. Now I want to give to you. And Esau picks him up and hugs him and says, oh, my brother, like God has blessed me as well.
Yeah.
I don't need your stuff because God has given me all sorts of things. I'm just glad that you're home. And so back to that sort of blessing, the narrative follows Jacob. The narrative, what we have clearly, a blessing, a divine blessing is given to Jacob. But throughout the whole story, divine blessing is also given to Esau, just like it was to Ishmael.
Yeah.
That while we try to restrict this blessing, God is giving it out, right? And I think one of my favorite bits is all the way back to that curse blessing that Jacob gave to Esau. The end of it was that you're going to serve your brother, but when you break this yoke from around your neck, you will be free of him.
Right.
So Esau has done some work.
Yeah, I was like, he's given up the anger. He's
He's forgiven his brother.
Jacob doesn't live rent free in his head in that same way.
Yeah.
That Esau has lived in Jacob's head.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the story then goes on. Esau says, come and, like, my camp is over in this direction. And Esau's like, oh, well, you go on, Jacob, you go on by yourself. We're going to be slow. We've got children and young animals and that sort of stuff. You go do your thing. And he goes and camps completely different place.
Right.
Because he does not trust that this grace has actually been given.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, much like we try to limit the blessing of God, we try to limit the redemption of Christ.
Yeah.
That it is only for certain people.
Yeah.
That only those of us that claim this and in this particular way too. Yeah. Like, it's not even all Christian, you know. Right. A lot of Christian theology, well, but only if you're baptized, but only if you do this, only if you take the sacraments in this way. Yeah. It is that continual restricting of the blessings of God, the forgiveness of God, the grace of God, that we want to think that it is only for us. And that is that there's only so much. And God is saying, no, there is enough. I am always enough for my children. Mm-hmm. And so my blessing in the Old Testament, my redemption in the New Testament is enough.
Yeah.
And should not be restricted and does not have a use by date. Mm-hmm. It doesn't.
Well, and part of it is it's the control.
Yeah.
Like I want to control who gets the blessing and who doesn't. I want to say that this is the boundaries around which God's blessing is given.
And just in general, we want to put God in a box.
Absolutely.
We want him to fit. Because that's easier. That's easier for us to understand.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So anyways, on to we're thinking about sermon and teaching and that sort of stuff. You already kind of said what it was going to be. Do you want to restate that?
No, I mean, I just think that, I think that, again, that what we are supposed to learn from this story is that even when we make bad choices, even when our choices may hurt someone else, God can still bless us. God can still take care of us. But that does not mean that the right thing to do was to seize power, was to take from somebody else. Because, again, and I think that I will pull in that bit when he comes back to Esau, because I think that is really important. I'm sorry that we don't actually have it as a reminder that God also blessed Esau. God, that when Esau did break free of the yoke of his brother, when he forgave him, when he let that anger go, he lived into that promise. He lived into that blessing and was blessed and was taken care
I think we had that story last year
of. Oh,
in
maybe.
narrative lectionary.
I don't remember that, but maybe.
Okay. I know it's one of the stories in narrative lectionary for this spot.
Yeah.
This slot. Yeah, I think I'm gonna focus on the abundance scarcity sort of that side of thing.
Yeah.
Of restricting God's blessing, but God's blessing is actually much more full than we assume that it is for lots of different reasons. And part of this is also we're skipping now over the rest of Genesis. So I guess I'll shift into the foreshadowing part. But how this sort of lines up with all of Genesis is the ultimate sort of payoff narratively comes with Joseph, the Joseph cycle at the end. Because again, we have not only the second born son, we have the 11th born son, I think he is. The one who is definitely an oddball.
Right.
He's definitely, if
He's the theater kid singing out back.
absolutely he was the theater kid, right? Because if Jacob is effeminate, like I'm not sure if Joseph's not gay. Like, oh, and he dresses in a pretty princess dress and he gets beaten up all the time.
Yeah.
And yet he is able to display being the image of God. He is actually put into that place of the image of God. He is the person in charge of most of Egypt eventually. And he sort of displays this abundance and this grace and all of these things that this whole story has been sort of around trying to tell, all the way from a couple of weeks ago we talked about that the Genesis 1 account of humanity being the very last thing to be created and yet given power and authority, and made that image of God, is then sort of almost fulfilled in Joseph. And then as we're thinking for next week, we have Exodus 3, 4, and 5, I think, which is, again, there's this tension of the Joseph cycle ends with all of these people, all of his brothers, now outside of the land of God's control,
Right.
Or assumed God's control. And then they keep staying there. And so generations later, 400 years later, they have become this multitudinous people, but definitely still not Egyptian. They are separate. Right. And so the Egyptians enslave them, try to kill them. Moses is born, is sort of raised in Pharaoh's household, murders an Egyptian guard, and is now on the run. He goes off to the Midianites, those are the other children of Abraham's second wife. One of them is Midian, so these cousin people. And this is where God speaks to him and says, go back to Egypt and let my people go. And Moses has some other
Moses
plans.
Has notes.
Moses has notes, which we'll get to next week. But that's kind of where we're going with this story. Is again a continuing of this blessing and the spreading out of this blessing. One thing really interesting in the end of that Joseph cycle is we have another blessing scene, and two very close blessing scenes. One is where Israel is going to bless Joseph's sons, and it's assumed that the oldest son is going to be under his right hand, so he gets more blessing, and he switches his hands so that the younger son is blessed more of Joseph, the 11th sons, right? So this very much thing. And then he pronounces a blessing on all of his sons. Some of them are curses, some of them are not great. But the sort of, maybe he has come to understand that, again, maybe that blessing is not quite as restrictive. It doesn't follow firstborn stuff. You know, he's also getting some revenge on some stuff that some of his sons did. So there's some real lack of family health.
Yeah,
it's not
therapy.
It's not a healthy system. But
There's so much there.
But yeah.
But
Anyways.
no, and just one note about the Joseph story is that through Joseph, Egypt is also blessed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That these, you know, that it is not, again, because God is not geographical, and God is not, you know, he blesses Egypt with enough food and enough to sustain them and enough to be able to help others. So, you know, that again, that idea that God's love and care and grace is broad and not narrow.
Yeah. In this place where the beginning of the Abraham cycle started with curses.
Yeah.
And all these, you know, like, yeah. So there's just, it's all woven together beautifully.
Yeah.
But anyways, so that's it for Jacob and the Stairway to Heaven. Any final thoughts?
No. Not
Cool.
good.
Lots of good stuff. So thanks for joining us today for Tales of Faith. Join us next time. We'll talk about Moses in Egypt and let my people go and the divine name of God. That'll be a fun one as well. Ooh,
Couldn't help it.
Yep, and we'll probably sing that as well.
It's very possible.
Yeah, you can watch on YouTube. You can watch on Spotify or listen on Spotify. You can listen on.
Oh, does our little window show up on Spotify?
Video.
The like little
No, but you can do that on Substack. You can watch or listen on Substack.
So I know, I know some
I haven't
podcasts
quite figured out
Spotify.
I think I have to.
I think you have to be popular enough.
That's probably it. I think you also have to upload the video to Spotify directly, and I'm already uploading it multiple places. I mean, I probably could do it there too. But
no, I just wondered. You said watch on Spotify, and I was like,
yeah, no, I got Substack and Spotify mixed up, much like getting Rachel and Rebecca.
That was quite the slip there.
That was quite the slip. No, that's a different story that we're not going over this year.
No.
One of the reasons that Jacob had some problems with some of his sons. So there you go. It's a deep cut. So thanks for joining us, and like, share, subscribe, comments, all that good stuff.
Let us know your thoughts.
Thanks for joining us.